In this class, you will have short readings that I will provide, either as PDFs or um, the internet will provide them free of charge, open access materials that you can just, go to and read free of charge. So there are going to be plenty of smaller readings. They're going to be book chapters or articles, or whether the journal articles or online articles, magazine articles, and we're gonna examine what I call the shorter nonfiction piece. Okay, they're just shorter than a book. The biggest case would be a book chapter that I will scan and provide. And we're going to look at the way authors develop their, the material, the style, the structure, the point of the writing. And we're gonna try to put these shorter nonfiction pieces. We're going to try to look at them and try to categorize them in terms of what they're trying to do and how. We're going to try to develop genres. It could be the memoir, it could be the proposal essay, it could be the data-driven essay, it could be a comparison contrast essay, it could be a complexity essay. There are really a lot of ways we can categorize these things and say, well, this one mainly is trying to complicate a notion that we think we know, but the piece is going to try to show us that there's more to it, right? So this would be the complication essay. And it's an approach that you can take. You can write a complication essay. You can take a concept that we have and say, hey, we're kind of there, but it gets a lot more complicated, and let me show you how. And that's actually a driver, a framework you use to develop a short nonfiction piece, which would be an essay you turn into an article that you write. So that's what we're going to be trying to look at, and I want you to try to learn how to think that way. Now, some of these essays and articles I will ask you to write about. Like we'll read them, and then I'll have you use them in a piece that I want you to write for me. A college essay that I want you to write for me. Others, at least half of the reading, you're not going to write about them in specifically for a smaller assignment that I develop. I just want us to read it, to think about it, and to look at what the author is doing with the piece. So there is a sense that to be a good writer, to develop and to grow as a writer, you need to practice writing, but you also need to be reading good writers, okay, or good text creators. They could be videos, documentaries, movies, song albums, whatever. You need to see someone developing a text. Okay, really quickly, a text for us is going to be broader than just a book or a chapter in a book or an essay or an article. A text is anything, any message, any communication that's in a fixed format that can be replayed, that can be documented, can be copied, okay, and that can be displaced. In other words, the author or the creator makes the thing, and then the creator can walk away, and you can come in later and see it. It doesn't depend for its existence on the synchronous, the same time existence of the author. Like when you watch a movie, that thing could have been made 10 years ago, and the director and the actors are not there in the room acting it out for you. The text is standing in as a substitute for that live action, right? That happened during filming or whatever. So there's a displacement that happens. So a text is anything in a fixed format. Now that could be words on a page, ink on wood, words on a page, or it can be electrons or electric charge stored on a chemical base, a mineral base, like your computer hard drive. Which when you get down to the physics of it, that's what it is. That's the fixed format. It has to do with electromagnetic charge. But in the physical world, that's still material, So a fixed format. It could be movies, music, anything that can can come to you as a collection of symbols, and then you can hit play and replay, and you can copy it. Okay, so that's what a text is. And about half of the text that we encounter in this class, I'm going to use in assignments for you to write about. Okay, the other half, you're not going to be writing about them, but you're going to be reading and watching them and trying to learn from them. You're going to be doing both at once. To be a good writer, you need to practice it, and then you need to watch other people do it. So that's where you read or you watch. You know, you're the author, and then you sometimes are going to be the audience. So that's what's going to be happening in this class. I want to make that clear because it can get a little bit confusing, and you know, as you get to work folder 5, 6, or 7, you might be, well, you know, what are we going to be using to write on? Are we ever going to use this to write about? And I might be, no, but it's really good to see what the author is doing here. And for those texts, the ones that we just read, you can always expect a video from me trying to show you what I see in the text and what I want you to see so that you can become a better writer. Okay? And one thing I want you to remember long term, you know, from this class, well, there are a couple things I want you to remember, but one thing is CMR, you know, CMR, you know, I'll take just a second, if you don't mind, to put it on the board. All right, CMR, and it has to do with interest. Okay, we're going to talk about this later, but right now it's create interest, maintain it, reward it. Create, maintain, reward. Create, maintain, reward. How do you create interest? You got a great title, you got a great topic, you got a great couple opening paragraphs, you got a great picture in there. I don't know, create interest. But you got to grab that reader who doesn't have to read your stuff. No, I do because I'm your teacher, but don't think that way. Think that you're producing something for a magazine and someone's going to be reading it in an airport lobby. They don't have to read it. They can go to another article that's better. Okay? How are you going to create interest and make them stop on your page, right? Create interest. Think of your YouTube videos. They don't have to watch your video. How are you creating interest? How are you going to make them stop and watch, all right? Create interest. Then, once you have them going, how are you going to maintain interest? How are you going to keep on convincing the readership that it's valuable for them to keep on going, or it's rewarding, right? Now, the reward is something that we should talk about later, but it's not necessarily a material reward, like, you know, something they actually get in terms of like you get the winning lottery ticket, you know, you get a material reward. You got money in your hand. But the reward for good writing, a good movie, a good song is often an intellectual reward, where the curiosity has been satisfied and some sort of alignment has been received. In other words, people like the song. People identify with the song. People replay the song. Think about your favorite movie, your favorite song, your favorite whatever. Why? Your favorite TV show, a streaming show, series. Why? Because when you watch it, your curiosity is piqued. It's developed, right? The interest is created and is maintained, and then you feel like you really liked it. It was not a waste of your time. It entertained you, or it taught you something, or you just felt like at the end, that time that you spent getting through the text was not wasted. There's some benefit you took from it. And so that's the reward. And many times it is a psychological or mental reward, but humans are all about that. We are all about that, okay? If you've ever struggled with boredom and have not liked the feeling of being bored, that's because with whatever text you were involved with or the absence of one, you were realizing that there was no mental reward for you there, okay? So your job as a writer is not to write a great research paper that, you know, is done in MLA or APA and has the works cited and somehow persuades people. It's too hard to persuade people. That's really not what I'm going to be pushing here. Your job is to create text that capture your reader, create interest, maintain it, reward it. Create, maintain, reward. Okay? And the articles that I bring to the class are going to be doing that. They're going to, now it's not as if they are fail proof. You know, if you put them in a room with 100 people, you know, they might, to 20 might zone out, but they got 80. All right, 80 saw the interest, maintained it, were rewarded by it. Okay, so, you know, an article that's going to get 80 people out of 100 involved in a room of, average, smart, adult Americans, or, people that can understand the language of the text, just smart humans. If you get 80% of them involved with your stuff, that's great, So, sometimes it helps that way when you're writing something. It's like, I know I'm writing for the school assignment, but that's kind of fake writing, because that can be gamed. You can get AI to do that. That's not going to really help you grow in your literacy. If you think you're just writing for me for some points, you're not really going to grow much in the class. But if you think, hey, I'm writing something, and if I were to put it in a magazine article, would anybody read this? Then you can see if you are becoming a real author. Or think in terms of a movie video, a short movie you're making. Is anyone going to watch it? How? How are you creating interest, maintaining it, rewarding it for someone who doesn't have to watch it or read it, right? So sometimes it helps to imagine yourself in a room of 100 people. And, just as I set up the room already, the 100 people are adults, they're literate, they're well-read, they're well-watched, they talk about things, they care about things, they're smart, they're aware of the culture, right? Now, if you were in front of that room of 100 people and you talked about the thing you're writing, would anybody be interested? Did you pick the right topic? Did you pick the right title? Did you start correctly to create interest? Do you know how to maintain it? At the end, do they feel like it was worth watching or listening to you? Now, that is the mark of a good writer. Not whether or not you can persuade someone about your point on an ethical issue and write that pro or con paper, that persuasive thesis. That's high school stuff. So that is a better way to think about writing. Okay. Now, because you were in the room with the 100, we can call it room 101. Okay, so maybe that will help you remember it. Okay, just think of a schoolroom, a building, or a hotel, or whatever, room 101. You get to go to room 101, and you get to talk in front of 100 people for 20 minutes over your title or your essay. You got to read it or talk about it. You're creating interest, you're maintaining it, you're rewarding it for 70, 80% in the room. That's great. So in order to remember this, maybe we should come up with just a saying, okay? I'll put it above. Put it in quotation marks. Control. Well, no, I'm going to put capture. That's a better one. Capture my room. Okay? CMR. Create interest, maintain it, reward. But maybe one way that you can think about it is that you're standing in front of a room with 100 people in it. You make 101. How are you going to capture your room? Because it's your topic, it's your piece, it's your, right? And maybe capture my room will help you remember CMR and room 101, the 101, the 100 readers in front of you. And CMR is create interest, maintain it, reward it, which is, I think, the core job of any good writer that finds success in basically any field creating text. Hey, thank you for watching.